This podcast is brought to you by Rising Phoenix alongside the Milano Cortina 2026 Paralympic Winter Games.
So doctors told my parents that I would be completely blind and that I wouldn't be mentally older than a 7-year-old. It's all about the determination, your mind, and having the right people around you. Sport to me is my freedom. It's the one place that makes me me.
On this episode, one of Great Britain's most decorated para-alpine skiers. Her name is Menna Fitzpatrick. She races down a mountain at 90 kilometers per hour with limited vision and total trust in her guide. She opens up about injuries, resilience, and why sport still feels like freedom. This is Menna Fitzpatrick on What Does It Take?
Thank you for having me.
I got a lot of questions, so we're just going to jump right in, because otherwise this hour will go pretty quickly. Let's talk about skiing and how it became like a passion of yours.
So it really started with my mum and dad and the family. They loved to ski and learnt it at university. And then when I was old enough, because I was the youngest, they were like, we really want to go skiing, but we've got 3 kids. Let's just take them with us. And it was literally you've got to join in, basically. And all 3 of us loved the sport so much. I think we probably did more sledging that first holiday, but we loved everything to do with the mountains. And yeah, just wanted to go faster and faster every holiday, every year, until I was probably about 11, 12 years old, when I wanted to give racing a go. And I was actually skiing at the Manchester Snowdome with my dad as my guide. And the British team was sort of doing a talent spotting day. So then they said, oh, why don't you come along to a camp? And then I've never looked back since, really. Loved it and just, wanted to keep doing it.
So you basically have a family of 5.
Yeah.
Where do you fit in age? Are you middle child? Are you oldest?
I'm the youngest, the daredevil, I think.
You got to watch out for the youngest. They're the daredevils for sure.
Totally. And they're probably the most competitive as well, you know.
So do you compete with them all the time? Like when you were doing downhill skiing?
So they didn't actually ever race as able-bodied people. But I think just the nature of having siblings, you do often make it a bit of a competition, even if it's like, how quick can you get dressed in the morning, or how quickly can you run up the stairs and all that sort of stuff. So it definitely fed my competitive nature to make me even more competitive when I did start sports.
What do you think about competing against your brothers and sisters, even if it's not skiing, any other stuff, and then you win? What's that feeling like for you?
I think that's probably one of the best feelings. You're like, yes, I beat them at something, especially when they've got all their working limbs as well. I feel like sometimes they have a bit of an unfair advantage, but as soon as it comes to sports, I can hold my own. I'm like, yes, there's one thing I'm better than you.
What percentage of vision do you have?
So I've got about 5% in the right eye, and pretty much useful sight in the left. And so it's not much. Let's just say that.
How does that affect skiing?
So that actually looking down the slope, I can pretty much see white. I can't tell whether there's lumps, rollers, anything like that. To me, I can just see a plain white playing field, basically. And it can make it tricky. And depending on the light of the day as well, if it's a bit sunnier and it's a bit brighter, I can see more. But as like skiing's an outdoor sport, you've got the weather and the light to contend with. So if it's a bit darker, I find it harder. And then all I can see of Katie, who's my guide, is the bright pink jacket or bib that she's wearing in front. So I can quickly see that whizzing around in front of me, and I've got to try and pick the same line basically, and learn off because we have Bluetooth headsets on the helmets. So she'll talk to me whilst we're going down, and she'll give me cues and timing things. And so basically when she says roll, I have the time to process it and then do it almost immediately after that. And it sort of works out with the timing.
So I got two questions from that, because do you pick the color that she wears?
Yes. Yeah, it started out as bright orange, but then the gates then became bright orange in the downhill. So then I was like, right, need something to look a bit different. I mean, it was a joint decision as well. She was like, I much prefer the pink.
So you just a pink blur, and you just chase it.
Basically,
are you wearing,
yeah.
You don't wear pink as well, do you?
No, sadly not. Although maybe we should make it the team color. The Pink Panthers.
I think I would cheer for the Pink Panthers all day long.
Perfect.
Do you feel like you need to wear sunglasses? Does that mess with your eyes too?
Not particularly. I mean, my condition, I need a lot of light, so I could actually walk around in sun and brighter places quite comfortably without anything. But I've just got to make sure I wear the right lens that can get as much detail in as I could. So I actually really struggle in the lower lights. That makes it even trickier for me, and especially if there's sun behind trees, so it kind of does all the shading and it goes from light to dark, light to dark. I'm pretty much blind for that whole section because my eyes can't adjust quickly enough, which is sometimes terrifying, but also pretty cool at the same time.
Can you tell where the finish line is?
So my depth perception's not brilliant, to tell the truth. So Katie will often, if I've come up before where the finish is, sometimes I can do that. But I just go off Katie, and Katie will go, she'll tell me when to stop. So she'll usually let me go way, way, way past the finish line until she says stop, basically.
I can hear you go, stop.
Yeah, basically.
Do you have to have a female guide, or could you have a male guide?
I could have a male guide if I wanted to. So I competed with a guy, Gary Smith, in Beijing after Katie unfortunately got COVID just before the games. So I competed with Gary, who I have had guided me before, which was really useful in that scenario. But I could, there's no rules of genders in terms of guides and athletes. So it's down to preference, and it's all done off the speed and the confidence that the VI's got, and depends on how fast or how the connection between the two of you. So it's more done on the relationship and the partnership and the trust rather than any genders.
So I know that you have an idol, someone that you look up to, which kind of baffles me a little bit because it's not even in the sport that you compete at. Could you tell me about him and what makes him your idol?
Yeah, so when I was about 13, 14, I went on a crystal ski holiday with my dad. And it was just as I was starting to get into racing. So Steve Redgrave and Matthew Pinsent were there as a bit of a star on the trip, basically. And he bought his gold medal, and there's this picture of me sat next to him holding his medal. And ever since then, I've been like, right, I really want to hold my own. And it's one of those things you think of it as a kid, as a dream, and then to actually go out there and make that dream a reality, like me and Jen did back in Pyeongchang 2018, is I still can't fathom that that we've done that, and I can actually call it my own.
So you held Steve's Olympic medal, and that motivated you to give you the desire to go from working at Chill Factor ski slope to transitioning from just I'm doing this for fun to okay, let's be the best in the world at this. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. Like that sparked my competitive nature and going, do you know what? I have the belief in me to go and do this. And if he can do it, then why can't I? And I think that determination's been like with the family and being the youngest, and even though I've been blind since birth, that's never stopped me trying to do things and being determined. And so I think that just added an extra layer in saying, if he can do it, why can't I? And that determination's just got me through everything over the last 15 years. I think I've done this now, which is crazy.
15 years is a good amount of time. They say you got to put in 10,000 hours to be an expert at it, and I would say you probably surpassed the 10,000 hours, which is why you're the most dominant Paris alpine skier that I know of, which is incredible. So during that 15-year period, how many guides did you have?
Oh, good question. So the first one was my dad. He started racing with me until probably the age of 15. So a good few years. And then I was partnered with Jen Kehoe, and who I was with her for 8 years. So that was a long time working together. And then I did a couple of seasons with Gary Smith, and then for the last 5 years I've been with Katie. So it's a good mix of people for sure, and you learn off each individual guide and how they work, and so it's really interesting seeing the different ways that they approach things. But currently, sticking with Katie for now anyway.
I feel it's fascinating that you've been through a couple guides, but the trust factor that you have to have with your guide is incredible, because correct me if I'm wrong, are you going down the hill at 115 kilometers an hour, somewhere in there?
So we're probably a little bit slower than that, but I think the speedometer said about 90 kilometers an hour in Beijing, which is still pretty
60
fast.
miles an hour. That's still the speed limit in Iowa.
Still pretty fast, but not quite the same.
If you would ski that fast through Fairfield, you would get a ticket because the speed limit is 45. So
I think that would be my one and only speeding ticket.
That would be something that you'd be proud of, is to have that speeding ticket. So how do you build trust so quickly with your guides?
I can tell pretty straight away if I know that I can trust the guide and the personalities of whether we'll click or not. And then that's a good starting place, usually. But as you start to work together, you do more things both on snow and then off snow. It's like that little stuff that actually helps build the trust, like day in, day out. And then that transfers then onto the snow, and you can see the connection that the BI and the guide have with each other is really special. It's kind of hard to explain.
You did well. Is your communication kind of like top secret? Or could you tell us a little bit about, let's say, you leave the gate, like give us a little rundown of communication from you leave the gate and maybe just like 1 or 2 turns. Like how does that communicate from guide to you?
Yeah, so
Unless it's top secret.
No, I mean, like if you were stood at the side of the piste, you could probably hear us screaming at each other. So I'm not sure we actually need the comms. It's very much like I'll put my poles over the start gate. Katie will ask me whether I'm ready. She'll go 3, 2, 1. She'll go on maybe 1 and I'll go on go. And then it's like we'll speak. I'll say immediately if I'm with her, whether I'm off, and anything like that. And she'll also tell me, depending on the discipline that we do. So in the speed, there's a bit more time in between the gates. So it's a bit more conversational. It's a bit more like soft knees if it's bumpy, or we've learnt to do a clock face. The way that Katie tells me the comms is really important. If she's dead calm, I know that there's nothing really to worry about coming up. But if she suddenly goes, ooh, then that can also have the negative effect.
Soft knees.
Yeah. It's like, right, okay. Prepare for something. So it's quite unique, and it's completely different for each VI.
So let's talk about, you started training. You knew you wanted to make it to a Paralympics. When was your breakthrough moment for you?
Oh gosh, probably 2016 was probably my breakthrough. It was my first time on the World Cup season and the World Cup circuit. Sorry, me and Jen were skiing pretty well. So we're like, oh, why not? Let's just try our first World Cup in St. Moritz. And we just enjoyed it so much. And we ended up coming back with 2 golds in both our World Cup events. And it was just like, wow, okay. And then it sort of built and built and built. And then we actually came over to our first World Cup finals in Aspen. And yeah, absolutely enjoyed it. Tried to make the most out of it, and then came home with 3 silvers, 3 golds, those races. And then ended up coming home with a crystal globe as well, which each race you get points towards an overall crystal globe standings. And then the winner of those will get this big crystal globe that you've got to try and get home.
So you're flying down these courses. I'm guessing you probably don't have a lot of it's probably not like you have months to train at each course, so injuries do happen. Have you had any injuries that set you back at all?
So yes, I've had 4 big ones, to be honest. So back in, after that really good season in just before the 2017 season, I broke all 4 bones in my hand doing a speed training run. So that wasn't fun. Then in 2020, just before lockdown started, I broke my right tibia. So I've got plate and pins in there. And then in 2024, I broke my left tibia. And then the December just been, I tore my ACL. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, not the best run up. So unfortunately, I've not actually competed. I've only competed in 1 race in the last 2 years, which is...
Out of all of those injuries, because they all sound very painful, which one was probably the toughest to kind of come back from to getting back on the slope?
Oh, I think my family say that I have no pain threshold at all. I keep quite calm and go, it's fine. Yeah, may have just broken my leg, but I'm fine. um, which is a bit of a weird thing. But they've all been very different for me mentally. I would probably say, like, none of them's been painful, but the mental recovery and the rehab and going through all those processes is quite mentally tough sometimes. And I try and take the positives out of it. But it's kind of a tough one because, as I said, I'm a very optimistic person. I'm determined enough, and I've seen people on the para circuit come back from pretty horrific crashes. Like, some of my teammates have been told, "You'll never walk again," and yet it might just take them a bit longer. I don't know exactly how many years, but they're skiing. They were racing with me, and I'm like, well, if they've gone from a doctor saying you'll never walk again to being able to ski and ski race, you can pretty much do anything. It's all about the determination, your mind, and having the right people around you. And as long as they all collide together, you've got every opportunity to get back to where you want to be. And I've actually come back stronger from most of my rehabs, because it does allow you the time to work on the bits that aren't quite as good as the other parts of you.
You know, I've had the doctors tell me that because I have no arms, I wasn't going to be able to do anything. They didn't believe I could feed myself. They didn't believe that I could shower myself or shave or do anything. For me, I feel like sometimes they do that. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
So doctors told my parents that I'd be completely blind and that I wouldn't be mentally older than a 7-year-old, basically. That's what they said, which is great to hear. But I've obviously surpassed that. Like, I've been able to ski, like, with my vision, able to read. I can do all many things. I can cook, I can live on my own, I can do all sorts of things, way more than what the doctor said. But they've got to, well, they basically prepared my parents for the worst, and then anything they get or anything that I can do more than that is a bonus, in a way. I think is the way that my family have said it anyway.
But you started skiing at the age of 5 and learning how to ski with that impairment at the age of 5. Did your dad help you with that? Did he did you hold on to a pole, or did he just push you down the mountain?
That's a very good question. I'm pretty sure it's quite a long time ago. So I'm not sure I can remember that much. But I'm pretty sure they obviously helped a little bit in terms of, as any parent would, help their kids, put them in the right position and help them along the way, sort of thing. But as soon as I sort of got the gist of it, I was very much, they put me in lessons, and I was literally like, right, I need to be right behind the instructor. Wherever the instructor goes, I'm there. And literally just tried to copy everything that they did. And I don't know whether it's because I'm so used to doing that all my life, is that I've had to adapt and copy my sisters and what they do, because that's all I've known. And I've known no different. So I automatically do that with quite a few people. And I think just doing that with the lessons and the other kids and trying to just make things work in any way that I can. And then it was only until, I was probably about, last couple of years skiing with my dad, that we actually had the headsets. So before that, my dad was just shouting and then doing arm movements like this to slow down. But yeah, it's certainly interesting how the times changed before, from me being a tiny little 5-year-old having no fear whatsoever, to this.
It sounds like your parents were very strong in believing that you could become who you wanted to become. And I feel like they pretty much allowed you to try whatever you wanted to try. Was there a sport that they ever kind of pushed you into just a little bit to see if you would like it?
Not massively, I suppose. I suppose skiing. Like they just wanted to ski. And as soon as we were in the mountains, we loved it as well. So then my dad said, "Oh, you could have the choices 2 weeks in a sun place on holiday that way, or a week skiing somewhere." And we were all like, skiing. So it's very much a family sport, skiing, and we still go on holidays now together. And it's I think because you can do it at any age with any ability. There's always something for everybody. Even if you're in a big group and there's a beginner there, there's experts. Like, it's all, you can do it all together. It doesn't matter, and no matter the age, like anything like that, it's one sport that you can do as a family, and it's really good.
You're absolutely correct when it comes to downhill, when it comes to skiing, because I love to ski, and there's people all the time that are skiing, and I almost feel like that is one of the sports in the Winter Paralympics that doesn't stereotype the athlete. I think, wow, maybe I should come and try out.
Yeah, you should definitely try it for sure.
Wow. I guess what's keeping me from doing that is that it's cold.
I mean, yeah.
You got to be up in the mountains. Speaking of cold, let's talk about this just real quick. The importance of kits and what they do, because as a summer athlete, I get shorts and t-shirts, and there's times where I see the Paralympic athletes that are heading off for the Winter Games, and I'm like, just a little bit jealous maybe that they get this cool like coats and fluffy sweaters. So kind of tell me a little bit about your I guess your swag or your clothes that you get issued.
Yeah, so we're really lucky to get a whole mix of everything. And yes, it's really important to have really thick coats, as well as the thin cat suits, because actually when we're racing, you've probably only got one layer of thermals and then your cat suit, and then that's it. Which sounds ridiculous, but it's not very long. I mean, our maximum race is a minute and a half. So as soon as you'll maybe take it off a couple of minutes before the race, somebody will take it down for you, and then it will be there at the bottom, typically. So it's thankfully not very long. We have to just go in that. And we're probably not concentrating on how cold we are going at those speeds. But equally, it is really nice to get the really cozy jumpers, and we do have some really nice kit. We get all the usual. So we do get a couple of shorts to do gym stuff in. We get jogging bottoms, trainers, t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, couple of different jackets and all that sort of stuff, which is pretty epic and pretty cool to be a part of the team.
What is your you called it something, I called it your race suit, right? Is the outside like a super slick material?
Yeah, so it's I'm not even sure what the material is, to be honest. But it's almost like lycra, and it has to have a certain amount of wind to be able to get through it. It has to be a certain standard, but they are quite thin, to be honest. And then although they do keep the heat in quite fairly well. But yeah, they are quite thin at the end of the day.
I think that's just your adrenaline.
Maybe, maybe.
Your adrenaline's keeping that heat in. What would you say in this year's kit would probably be the coolest thing you've gotten?
Oh God. I mean, I really like hoodies and thick jumpers like this. I love this sort of stuff. It's me and it suits my personality. So yeah, probably one of these.
Your first games was in 2018. Do you still have a jump like your kit from then? And do you still wear it?
Yeah, so I do actually keep my my cat suits my race suits that I won those medals in. Not quite hanging up, but I do keep them. I've changed in body size since then. I've definitely put on more muscle then. So I'm not convinced I could actually put them on and wear it and it not be so see-through. But I do have some of the bits that I do wear. I definitely wear some of the stuff from Beijing still. So I do often wear the kit a lot.
Do you have to get them custom made or custom tailored at any point?
So the cat suits tend to be the race suits. You have to give all your measurements in so they can make sure it fits and it's the best for aerodynamics as well. For us, because that can play a big part in it as well. So yeah, specifically the race suits, but anything else is you pick your size basically.
And I'm just going to throw this out there, but you hiked to the base of Everest? And why did you do that? That's crazy.
Yeah. That was a bit of a... Do you know when you just like a bit of a surreal moment? I randomly got this email from the Paralympics GB team saying that 2 of our athletes have pulled out. And it was a couple of a husband and wife cycling team who have pulled out. So I was like, well, I can't say no to that opportunity. Since I never even knew that it was on my radar to even have the opportunity to go. Like, it wasn't on my bucket list, not even in my realms of possibilities of it being possible. And then I got this email to say there's 2 spaces if you want to come. So I was like, definitely can't say no to that. So I emailed them back straight away, and they said, "Oh, sorry, those places have been filled." So I was like, "Oh, great, but we've got a space in the next one." I was like, "Well, yeah, I'll do that." And then I came back. I think I was coming on camp maybe the week after, and I said it to Katie. I was like, "Oh, I signed up to hike to Everest Base Camp with this company. Like, there's some other VIs on it. There's some other sighted people helping guiding and all this sort of stuff." And she was like, "Is there a space for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can come if you want." So it just it turned into this pretty cool opportunity to trek to Everest Base Camp together, and that's also one of the things that helps build trust between the 2 of us, doing those cool adventures and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that was a pretty epic moment, to be honest.
How bad when you got to the base of Everest? Because you're an athlete. Did you have this desire to be like, okay, you know what? Let's just go to the top. Or no?
No. I was very much like, that's enough now. I don't fancy climbing up anymore. It was pretty tough to get up there, to be honest. And one of the people from our group couldn't actually make it to the base camp because she got altitude sickness. And so although me and Katie are used to being at fairly high altitudes with skiing, we were up at 5,000 meters, which we'd never do skiing. So we didn't know how we were going to react to that. And sometimes it's the fittest people who get the altitude sickness the worst because they push themselves a bit too much, typically. So I was like, I'm going to take this really easy and just get up there slowly. So thankfully, yeah, we did manage to both make it up. But yeah, didn't want to go any further.
So in 2018 was your very first games in South Korea, and you're landing at the airport and you're getting off the plane. What was that experience like, considering it was your first games?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really think I knew what was happening. I'd got off this really long haul flight, didn't really sleep much at all because I think I was so excited. And yeah, I think I was probably in a bit of a daze. But going through the Paralympics, I just went in there, eyes wide open, not knowing what to expect, not knowing what it was like in a way. I mean, I'd been to a Paralympic inspiration program, so I actually went to Rio and watched the summers and had a tour of the Summer Paralympics and to see what that was like. So I had some level of knowledge, but nothing like it was. And I think I got to like the last event and things just kept going on and on and on and things kept happening. And I think I had to stop in inspection and go, I'm so overwhelmed with everything that's happened this week. I have no idea how I'm even still standing. But I just had to talk to the coaches, talk to my guide, Jen, and we were literally like, right, we've done everything that we could possibly want to achieve at this games already. Let's just go and have fun in this last race, take it all in, go and sit with the family in the crowd after, watch the rest of the race, and just be ourselves. And that's exactly what we did. And we ended up winning gold in that event, which is mental. But yeah, it was pretty epic. And to go through all that and have that as a core memory that I can share with other people.
So after your first games in 2018, you're gearing up for your second games in Beijing 2022. And you're trying to wrap your head around it and getting all excited. And you fly in and you land on your plane. You land the plane and you get out. Now what's the feeling like?
Going into Beijing, wow. I mean, it was complete unknown, to be honest. Just from the minute we've landed, Katie had already got COVID. So I was already on the back foot and going, right, what can we do? Where are we at? Like, let's plan for the what ifs. And yeah, so thankfully Gary was able to step in. So it was already on a bit of a balance board of what we were going into it being, okay, what can we do here? And then it was the whole COVID situation and just praying for the fact that we didn't get a positive COVID test as we landed into this abandoned airport, basically, because they closed the borders to anybody else. So it was very, very surreal. And then, but as soon as you went into the Paralympic Athletes Village, because we were the only sport there, it was only alpine, it almost felt like just a normal race. With the added little bits of media and all this sort of stuff. And so it was a bit more calm, not gonna lie. But also stressful in some bits with the COVID testing and all this sort of stuff. But it just felt a bit more normal. And because I knew what to expect going into the games, it was a little bit easier to navigate. Navigate the feelings and the pressure and all this sort of stuff. And I'd probably put more pressure on myself than anybody else, being an athlete for sure. So to come to be able to then perform under that pressure, I think I surpassed any goals and any thought that I could do on myself, really.
Well, don't expect Italy to be like that. You're going to get a lot of people, and it's going to be
Yeah.
just like your first games in 2018. What are your hopes for your performance for Milano Cortina?
Oh, that's an interesting one. To be honest, right now, after the injury that I've had in December, it's very much just getting to push out that start gate is a success to me. But equally, being the competitive person I am, I want to go out there and perform the best I can do on that day. So I try not to put any result focused or outcome focused pressures on me and Katie. It's all about go out there, have fun, go and try your best. And I've just said recently that I don't want to get to the end of the games and regret not pushing myself hard enough. And as long as I do that, then I've won a gold medal to me. I don't care about results. It's all about the process and enjoying it and being the best I can possibly be.
But what I really want to know is what does it take to get to a games after you started your journey for para-alpine skiing?
I think for me, it's trusting the process in all the training. You've got to take that leap of faith, and trust the coaches and get in that gym a lot. I've found I used to hate the gym when I first started out and never wanted to go to it, and then as I've grown up a bit more, realized that actually, unfortunately, you have to do the hard things. You've got to get up early, train. You've got to get in that gym, push the weights up to be able to get to the top. Unfortunately,
I know that Beijing was during COVID, and you weren't. There was no family members that were supposed to be there. Are they all coming with you to Italy?
They are, yes. I think there's 10 of them, so they'll be there screaming with flags and matching hats and all sorts.
When I'm watching on TV and I'm watching you get it ready to do your run, if I hear all these people scream, I'll know exactly who they're cheering for.
They'll be mine for sure.
Have you ever been to Italy before?
So yes, I've been to Italy a few times, and I've actually raced in Cortina on the slope that we'll be racing on. And it's a really nice hill. It's a bit steep to start off with, and then it mellows down. There's a few different rollers in it, but as long as you're in the right position, it's really fun.
Is there anything about Italy that you're looking forward to now that you're going back very shortly, actually, a couple weeks?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm a sucker for pasta. I love pasta, to be honest, and they do it brilliantly. And the people there are just so friendly, and they always make you feel welcome. So I'm really looking forward to going back there and seeing. And they're also really proud to be Italian, that's come across a lot in the Winter Olympics. So I'm hoping that will continue and we'll be able to get some of that energy and say, like, ride that wave basically, and be a part of the way they do things.
Is there any other venues at the games that you would like to go visit if you get a chance?
I mean, it would be great to support the other competitors or the other teammates. I really want to watch snowboarding. I think we've got some really good people in there, and it is thankfully close to Cortina. Unfortunately, because of how spread out quite a lot of the venues are, I'll only be able to really see the snowboarding and the curling. And then unfortunately, Scott Mina, who's who's our Nordic guy, is somewhere way over there, like maybe a few hours. So unfortunately,
Oh.
we won't be able to go and support him. But we'll be there cheering through the TV. But yeah, I'll try and support the guys. But with us doing 5 different events, we've got a really packed schedule to go in the 10 days. And yeah, so it's all about making smart decisions of, yes, you might want to go and support the team, but you've got to think about your recovery at the end of the day. It's a hard decision to make, but yeah, it can go both ways.
What do you think is the most thing you're looking forward to for going to Italy?
Ooh, it's a great question.
Can't say pasta.
I know, I've said that one, don't I? I don't know, just being a part of the Paralympics once again, and I had such an amazing time in Beijing, even despite COVID, and then in Pyeongchang, and just going out there enjoying being part of that movement is like really, really special. So that for me to be a part of the Paralympics GB team for a third time, yeah, is just really special. And to be able to share it with Katie, this will be her first games. So sharing all my knowledge and my experiences with her is really cool as well.
I'm guessing it's going to be a completely different experience than Beijing.
Yeah, I'm hoping
prepared?
So.
You prepared for that?
Yeah, I think it'll be very different. I think there'll be a lot more people around, the crowds and all that sort of stuff. So that'll be slightly different to what we're used to. However, I think it'll be really cool so the crowd has to be completely silent whilst we're racing, so we can hear the comms between the two of us. So that's going to be, it won't affect like the performance in the race itself, but as soon as we cross that finish line, you get hit by this roar, this cheer, and it's quite something. So to experience that again, it's pretty cool.
And you get to do it in Italy, where it's the 50th anniversary of the Winter Paralympics, which
part of history for sure.
It's history, without a doubt. It's history. What does sport mean to you, and where do you think you would be without it?
Gosh, sport to me is my freedom, to be completely honest, and it's the one place that I can be myself and to really enjoy and get behind, where like it's the one place that makes me in a way, and I can be different. It's the one place that I can succeed.
I think sport gives athletes purpose.
Yeah.
I think it motivates us to wake up every day and get us going, and I think it's super powerful. In one word, what does it take to do what you do?
Resilience, I think. You've got to have the determination and the resilience to get through any hard times, because they will come. They will come. If you're pushing yourself hard enough. I think the resilience to get through that.
So, Menna, we are going to wrap it up, but what I've been doing is I've been playing this game with everyone that comes onto the show.
Okay.
Because I know we're all competitors, and I see that you've been in the gym because you are sitting by some weights, so I feel like you had a little bit more training for this, but it's kind of like a friendly competition, okay? I'm going to ask you a couple questions. The rules are simple. Just try to get through them as quick as possible. No hesitation, just the first thing that kind of comes to mind. And I think it's interesting because we call the game Zero Chill, which ironically you work at, is it Chill Factory Ski Slope?
Yeah, it was called Chill Factory.
Yeah, it's interesting because usually at the beginning of these podcasts, I talk to the athletes and I always kind of a little bit talk about the weather and how cold it is in Iowa, but I can't be that surprised because it is Winter Paralympic time. So, Of course, it's going to be cold. So I think the chill is very fitting. So would you like to play the game Zero Chill?
Sure.
Okay. This is Zero Chill with Menna Fitzpatrick MBE. I love saying that. That's so cool. All right. One part of Italy you're excited to see.
Or the Dolomites.
One Italian food you can't wait to eat.
Pasta.
Espresso or cappuccino?
Neither. Tea.
Spaghetti, linguine, or tortellini?
Spaghetti.
One thing audiences will love about para-alpine skiing.
Oh, God. The uniqueness of it.
Which other para-winter sport would you be following during the games?
Snowboarding.
The toughest thing about your training?
The early mornings. Not an early person.
One thing you do to relax?
Watch TV.
Your hype song before a race?
Roar by Katy Perry.
Your pre-ritual or superstition?
Ice down the back of my neck.
Not that I know this is about speed, but isn't there a awareness thing about pouring ice
yes,
over your head?
Yeah.
Okay. One word. What do the Paralympic Winter Games mean to you?
Freedom.
Finally, what does it take to be your best?
Determination.
Bam. That is perfect. You did a great job. You answered all the questions. But listen, Menna, it's been an honor, a privilege to have you on the show. I'm hoping that everybody that's listening will, follow you, and the awareness that you bring to the sport is just amazing. I hope you have an incredible games. Just have fun. You're going to have a blast, I promise. And make sure you are at the games. Make sure you hug your family and let them enjoy in the memories of the Winter Paralympics in the 2026 Milano Cortina, because I feel like the memories you'll make there is another thing that you won't forget. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me and allowing me to share my journey.
And you've been listening to What Does It Take, a podcast brought to you by Rising Phoenix, alongside the Milano Cortina 2026 Paralympic Winter Games. If you like what you've listened to and want to know more about Rising Phoenix, check out the details in our show notes. This is a Harder Than You Think production.
This episode is about overcoming barriers and competing without compromise, presented in partnership with Tampax.